board next year. And basically what we're going to be doing today is I have created a series of slides, and a few of the officers have also helped me. And basically we are going to just talk about advice for pre-health students. It's mostly geared towards students hoping to go to medical school, but I think it'll be helpful for anyone who is considering a career in healthcare, regardless of what that is. So basically, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about that, and then we'll all give a little bit of our own experiences with what applies to the advice that we're going to give and what's worked and what hasn't. And then if you guys also have any questions, you can feel free to chime in whenever, type them in the chat if you're more comfortable doing that, or at the end, you can just ask questions. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see that okay? Okay, awesome. So like I said, special event today. I have a disclaimer on the first slide. We are by no means experts. We're just here to have a open conversation about our experiences and successes. So we're just going to talk about our experiences a little bit. I have a few little trivia questions throughout, just for some more involvement from you guys. So a lot of these trivia questions that I have are regarding different statistics for applying to medical school, and all of my information is coming from the AAMC. So if you are interested in, like for this question, finding information, the same information about another school, you could definitely find that online, or I got them from MSTAR. So if you want more information on those resources, I can always share those with you as well. So the first question is, what percentage of students accepted into U of A College of Medicine Phoenix in 2019 were involved in undergraduate research? And this is a forewarning that the first topic we're going to be talking about is research. So I know it's, no, don't look at the answer. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and, just give a guess, because I can't see the chat. And if not, that's okay too. I'll sit here and stare at you guys for a little bit and then I'll say it.
Was it 60%?
Okay, so this is interesting because that number is much lower than the actual number. So actually, 90 to 94% of accepted students to U of A College of Medicine Tucson and U of A College of Medicine Phoenix respectively had research involvement. So that is a very high number of people who were accepted, which means obviously that undergraduate research is very important towards your medical school application. And once again, I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do, and these are just numbers for you to make your opinions on. So some research studies have shown that undergraduate research often leads to further persistence in STEM fields. And from my own experience, I found that it has made me more interested in learning about my field in STEM, which obviously makes me more likely to stay in STEM. And it gives you more connections to faculty. For example, the research lab that I'm in, my PI is actually a professor I had in a previous class. And honestly, I probably would have never spoken to her if I didn't join her research lab. But I got the opportunity throughout the semester when I was in her class to create a connection with her and also create a connection with her in my research lab. And through that, I'm able to ask her for a letter of rec that is a little bit more personal compared to one that you would just have from a faculty member who observed you in an academic setting. So the route that I've taken with that is, I've asked her to talk about me on behalf of a student in her class and both as a member of her research lab. So I thought that was a really cool approach because she's able to see me in both those ways, and also I'm kind of able to kill two birds with one stone. This way I can get another letter of rec from another faculty member who I think saw me in a positive light, and another person I worked with in an extracurricular. And later we'll talk about what kind of letters of rec is recommended. And another benefit of undergraduate research is the ability to think critically and to pursue outside interests. So this is one thing that I think is really important because I would not like my research lab if it wasn't something I was interested in. And I know my freshman year at ASU, I tried really hard to just get into a research lab. I was like, oh, you have to do research if you want to go to medical school. And that was a lot of pressure for me. And like whatever research lab came my way, I was like, okay, I'm going to apply. And then I ended up like trying to join an organic chemistry lab. And if you love organic chemistry, that's amazing, but I don't. So I quickly found that it's not going to work for me unless it's something that I'm truly interested in, which did slow the process a little bit because I had to look in the labs that I was actually interested in, but now I genuinely like the work that I do. And it makes it a much easier experience. Additionally, this is something that I'm just saying for myself, like there are a lot of different types of research you can do, right? You could work in a lab, like doing more hands-on type of things or something else. And the research I do isn't necessarily, the traditional lab-driven research. Like the research that I do is looking at ways to make biology education or making STEM classes more inclusive and diverse. And that's something that I'm passionate about because like as someone who is pursuing a career in STEM, I think everyone should have equal opportunities in the classroom, and those will allow everyone to be successful, which will lead to more diverse fields in the future for, medicine or just in science in general. And like for me, that might not be the stereotypical pre-med lab experience, but I found a way to gear it in my application towards something that I'm interested in, passionate about, and able to connect it to my application. So that's just something to think about if you're pressuring yourself to just join something. I think, as you can see, it's very important that you're involved in research, but I'm really happy that I didn't rush myself and eventually found something that I liked. So research at ASU is obviously not the only opportunity you have to complete research. Some of these other programs I have listed these ones are the ones I know of that are summer programs. So there's the TGen Helio Scholar, the Mayo Clinic SURF and SRS appointments, Barrow Neurological Institute, and the Honor Health ones. These are mostly ones that I found in the Barrett Honors Digest, which is also a really good resource. But if you're not in Barrett, that's obviously fine too. You can find them in like the School of Life Sciences newsletter type of things. And if you reach out to a pre-health advisor, they can definitely put you towards the direction of more resources like that. But here are just some of the few that I know of. And something that's interesting about these programs are a lot of them are paid. They are quite competitive though. So that is one difference between the programs for the summer and then the ones that are just here at ASU. A lot of them will require you to apply sometime like right now. They'll usually require a personal statement and letters of recommendation, which can be really hard because the application will open and then they'll want your stuff done in a short period of time. So you really need to be on top of it if you want to get into these programs, but they are really beneficial. And they definitely allow you to make connections with people outside of ASU, which might be something that's a little bit more difficult if you're doing research in ASU. So one of our officers, Emily, is going to talk about her research experience and what advice she can give you.
All right, hi guys. So this is just a general research that I found is very beneficial for who interested in it. Right now, I am also in another research, and that's for gender equity in STEM, and that's through one of the classes from Barrett. It's called Honor 394, and that's under the Barrett Fellowship. So if you want more information about it, you can like private me messages or just talk to me or ask me a question right now. And oftentimes, if you want to get into research as soon as possible, I would suggest you to attend research workshop, because that is when they're gonna show you step by step, and then there's gonna be like research assistant, they're gonna be like TA or anyone who can assist you with more information. And those are the people who are in the field, and then they can connect you with more person compared to me. So just provide it there. And another one is just, do you attend research presentation event? Because back in freshman year, I attended with my friends because she's really interested in research and she wanted to actually become like a research scientist. So I attend her with that presentation, and that presentation is when like the upperclassmen, like sophomore, junior, senior, they're kind of presenting there, and there are a lot of different posts, a lot of different topic, and you come and you talk to them like, oh, hey, like I'm interested in this topic, or I'm interested in this research. How will I be able to get it? So they're going to give you a lot of good advice. And by that, you're going to make connection and you're going to make friends with them as well. So I did make some of them, and I know some of them, but I don't really interest into the topic they did, but at least I have the connection. So that's another way that I suggest you guys to do it, attend the research presentation. And another one is just write an email formally to anyone that you know, or to talk to your professor in the class, such that I'm going to assume that you are going to major in biology. because you want to like become pre-med. Often your biology professor know a lot of people, and my tips is that you should try and your best to do good in the class, because if you have like a really good grade, you're gonna impress the professor. Because my freshman year, I know one of my friends, he did pretty well in the test, so that the professor himself like sent him an email and it's like, hey, this is a research I'm interested in, so if you're one of the striving and you one of the top, trying to do good in your class is another way to get into good research as well. And then the last one, I would say participate in club that interesting in your interest, because beside this club, I am also in the biomedical genetic club, and that is when all the officer in there is really I don't know how to say, they're really overachieving, that they do a ton of research and they're gonna help you a lot and you can talk to them. So I suggest you to participate in the club, and though officer gonna connect you with a lot of things as well. So that's my advice. I don't know if you guys have any question. If you want this slide, contact me as well. I can send you the link. And that is it from my slide.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we're gonna go to the next slide. Sorry, okay. Julia, take it away.
Hi guys. So I did, in order to get into my undergraduate lab, I also did the honors 394 as a Barrett student. And with that one, I really just found that like communication is really key. When you're in a lab, you're gonna want to like talk to all the people in your lab. And with mine, at least my PI or like the head of my lab, I met with her like every couple weeks. And then when I was doing, because with the honors class, you get put on like a certain just like study, like it's just whatever they need help on, you get put on that. And then I would meet with her, and then I asked her like, hey, I want to do my thesis with you. Is that possible? Is that something I could do? And then I ended up designing my own study that I'm working on. And that's like one step that you can kind of like get into your own interests, like how Tala and Emily were talking about, like doing something that you actually like really enjoy. You can kind of go to your PI and be like, this is what I want to do. Is this something that you're also interested in? And then maybe work on that together. And that's it for me on research.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention as well as far as research. If you are in Barrett, it is also a good way to get honors credit. You just have to fill out a form if you're doing the, I think I'm enrolled in Bio 495, which is the research credit, and you can also petition for honors credits, and most of your PI should know about that if they've had experience with that. And like Julia said, like talking with people in your lab, I communicate a lot with graduate students in my lab rather than my PI, because she has, you know, a lot of people that she looks over. And, you know, at first you can think like, oh, it's not as important to have a good relationship maybe with the people who aren't going to be writing you a letter of rec or aren't going to be as influential. But like she was telling me, hey, Tal, I'm going to write your letter of rec, and I'm going to be in communication with the graduate student you've been working with. So it's really important that you make a good impression on everyone, and you're just, you know, promoting the positive lab environment yourself. Otherwise, it won't be fun. Emily?
So yeah, I put my last name because there was two Emilys. But my best advice is personally to like reach out to a professor who's teaching a class that you've really enjoyed. And that's what I did. I had a class and I'd been trying to find research for weeks, and they always said just ask a professor. So I was asking like my chemistry professor, even though I hated chemistry. But then I had a class on aging and I loved it and I did really well in it. And I asked my professor and she helped me find someone who was doing research in the field I was interested in. And I've been doing research on that. And I also wanted to like mention that like not all research projects are going to look the same. Like my idea when I was trying to find research is that I was going to be like doing research in a lab and testing samples and stuff. And I feel like that's just the idea that we get, that that's what research is. And so when I actually started my research project, I was so shocked at what I was actually doing, and it was completely different. Like, so there's just so many different types of research, and you just have to find something that you really like doing and pursue it. And then my research is, on that note, like my research is on father-offspring relationships. And this is not done in a lab. Like, we interview people and stuff, so it's very different than the usual types of research that I thought, you know, pre-meds would be doing. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is, like, if you don't get a position right away, like, don't stress. It took me 1.5 years to find a research position, and it was like, it took so long, and I was really starting to give up on ever finding research, and I was like, none of my professors will let me on. And then, you know, I just reached out to the right person. So don't give up if you don't find a position right away.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome advice. Definitely don't give up. And there are a lot of opportunities. Luckily, we go to a big university that does a lot of research, so you will find something that you like. So here are some advice on research at ASU versus not at ASU. And I kind of talked about this, like, being outside of ASU gives you a new environment to make connections and a new network. Being at ASU is really great for relationships with faculty members. And like I said, course credit is awesome because it's definitely a way to boost your GPA if that's something that you're concerned about. And it feels like, you know, you're going to be spending a lot of time in your research lab, and if it's going towards course credit, that's taking a load off of a class you would have had to take. So I would definitely look into that. I believe the maximum you can do for just like singular course credit is 6 credits. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But for example, I'm only doing 6 credits in my research lab, but next year I'm going to start working on my honors thesis with my research lab, so I'm going to be able to get credit through that. So there's other ways to get research credit as well. So, trivia question. What percentage of students accepted to U of A College of Medicine Phoenix in 2019 were involved in clinical experiences? There's 2 numbers, one for paid experiences, one for unpaid experiences. Anyone feel free to throw out a number.
Let's try 80%.
80, awesome, very close. So for volunteer experiences that were clinically involved, it's 70%, and for paid experiences, it was 80, or I think that's backwards, sorry, 84 to 70%. I don't really know if there's a big difference between it being paid or unpaid, but they did classify that on their statistics, and I'm pretty sure you have to put that in your application. So one of the biggest things about clinical experiences are they help establish your bedside manner, and you want to be able to have people see you function in a setting that's with patients. Some good examples of that are shadowing, clinical volunteering, being an EMT, a CNA, or scribing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about shadowing later. Shadowing is more of a passive experience. You won't be interacting with patients as much as you will be with these other experiences. And they also on these statistics had shadowing kind of separate. But I know some medical schools do consider that clinical. So it really depends. But I think it would be good to do shadowing and some other type of clinical experience, whether that's paid or volunteering. Ramya, is this your slide?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so my personal experience with clinical experience, I was a medical scribe for a few months. I personally really liked scribing because for me, shadowing was always something that kind of made me uncomfortable because I just felt weird kind of just watching the doctor do stuff. So I think for me, scribing was a great way to also try to get in my shadowing hours, just because you do get to form with shadowing or with scribing, sorry. Basically, as a medical scribe, you go around with the doctor and you take notes for them. Basically, as they're talking to the patient, you're recording their symptoms and all of that kind of thing. It's also a really good way to start to learn medications and things like that you're going to have to learn anyways, because the doctor's going to be he's going to be spouting, or she is going to be saying a bunch of medications, and you got to type as fast as you can and try to learn them. But it's definitely a great way to get that clinical experience and learn if you actually do want to be a doctor. I think clinical experience and volunteering are something that's super important before you decide if you do want to apply to medical school, just because this is what's giving you the actual experience of like, what is it actually like to be a doctor, and you get to see like a day in their life type thing.
And another great thing about scribing too is that you get to form a really great relationship with the doctor. You get really close to them because you see them every day. They understand your work ethic and all of that. So it's also a great way to get a letter of recommendation. And like obviously when you get a letter of recommendation from a person who's actually a doctor, that looks really good on your application and things like that. So I would definitely recommend scribing if you want to wait for clinical experience. And another great way, it's really good for shadowing because even if you're not, say like you need a place to find a shadowing experience, on a day that you're not working for that doctor, you could say, hey, is it okay if I come in and shadow for you? So it's like a way to kill two birds with one stone. And so with volunteering, my advice is to find something you're really interested in. For me personally, I found my volunteering through clubs at ASU. I'm in 2 clubs for tutoring refugee students. Those are called RISE and US United. And those are 2 things that I joined my freshman year that I was really interested in. So those are things that I found my ways of volunteering in. But it's also a really good idea to volunteer at like a local clinic or hospital. One recommendation I have for you guys, I personally don't have experience working in this clinic itself. It's called the Patch Clinic, but I've heard a lot of good things about it, and it's a great way to get volunteering and clinical experience. The Patch Clinic is basically a nonprofit doctor's office, and there's like doctors working for free, basically to give services for people who don't have insurance and can't afford medical care. And so it is going to be a volunteer position, but it's like a great way to get involved in the community, helping them and get that exposure as well.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to say a little bit about clinical experiences as well, because I know I touched on applying to be, or not applying, trying to become an EMT as one, and that is a class that I did last year. I think I learned a lot from it. It was a good experience. The only thing that's hard is actually finding a position as an EMT because the hours are really hard. I kind of got involved with a lot of other things, so I didn't pursue it as hard, but I would make sure that if you're trying to pursue something like that for clinical experience, to make sure that the work you put in to get that certification or whatnot will pay off in the end and will get you a position that'll actually earn you hours. Because some of those things are A, pricey, and B, a big time commitment actually getting the certification. But I know that some people have been very successful getting clinical experiences through those. So I know we kind of talked about shadowing, and I think shadowing has been one of my favorite experiences so far because it has been the one experience, not the one, one of many experiences that has really shown me that I want to go into medicine, because I've actually gotten to see what my day in the life might look like in the future. And I'm going to be honest, it was very hard to find shadowing experiences, and I know that's something that is tricky. But one thing that I found is you just can't be shy with it. I basically asked anyone I knew who I felt comfortable with, like, do you know anyone who's a doctor? And do you know anyone who, you have a good relationship with, who would be willing to take on a friend or a family member? And I got a ton of no's. Trust me, like so many people were just didn't answer my email or text, which is fine too, until I got a yes. So I think that's something you just really have to be persistent with. And I know it's hard because it's a lot of sending emails to people you don't know or talking to people you may not know on the phone, and that can be intimidating at times. But it's really worth it because shadowing has been an amazing experience and looks really good on your application. And I know due to COVID, that has obviously been very hard. Hopefully it will get easier as more of us get vaccinated. But I do know that some medical schools are accepting virtual shadowing opportunities. So that might be something to look into if you are having trouble finding that. Another thing is through clubs and things, like for example, every time we have a speaker and I am interested in them, I'll usually send them an email, and that might not even end in shadowing, but at least they know my name, or at least in the future, if I do want to shadow them, they'll be like, oh, there's that girl who was nice and sent me an email. So I know that not always, our speakers don't always give out their contact information, but if they do, they wouldn't give it out if they weren't expecting people to contact them, right? So it never hurts to send an email is my moral of the story there. And making sure you have a diversity of different involvements when it comes to shadowing is important, because then you can say, I really found that I liked this as compared to this, because you have multiple experiences. And another thing, so I personally have not applied to medical school yet. I will hopefully be applying this cycle, and a lot of the information I am sharing today is from stuff I found through the AMC, through pre-health advisors, and through other officers we had in AMWA last year. And one thing that they brought up was to try and make like a central theme of your application, and I think shadowing is a good way to show that. So if you're interested in a certain field, a certain type of medicine, or anything in specific, that could be a good way to show that. And, you know, see if you're actually interested in that. Because there were a lot of things that I was like, oh, I would never do that. And then I shadowed and I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. So I think it is a really good experience. Okay, trivia question. The dreaded MCAT is what we're going to be talking about next. So the question I have is, what was the average MCAT score for students who applied to medical school in the 2020-21 application cycle? And the question is applied, not accepted. Anyone have a number? This ranges from 472 to 528. Well, that's okay, because I'm going to tell you the answer. So the total MCAT mean for people who apply to medical school, you can actually see it for the last couple cycles, but the most recent cycle was 506.4, which, as you can see, is a little bit higher than a couple years prior. And you'll see the same trend for, we're going to talk about next, people who got accepted to medical school, that the numbers kind of went up. And then we're going to talk about the sections of the MCAT, and it actually, this table breaks down the mean and standard deviation for each section, and it will also give you the science GPA, non-science GPA, and total GPA. So these are important numbers I think we should all look at as well, to kind of get a range of the people you might be competing with, for lack of better words. So the average GPA for people who applied in the last cycle was a 3.6, total non-science GPA 3.74, and science GPA 3.49. And then you guys can look at the numbers for the actual different sections of the MCAT, and we're going to talk about what those sections are in just a second. As you can see, the total number of applicants is very high. Yeah, so I think while numbers can be scary and numbers don't mean everything, because there are a lot more experiences that are important than just your MCAT score and your GPA, and these are not meant to scare you, or those numbers are not meant to define you. Unfortunately, they do play a part in your medical school journey, getting accepted. So I did want to share that information with you guys. And once again, you can find this information on the AAMC website. So the next question is, what was the average MCAT score for students accepted to medical school in the 2020-21 application cycle? So these are students who were accepted. So this way you can see the difference between who applied and who was actually accepted. Anyone have a number? It's higher than the last one, if that helps. That's fine too. So in the last cycle, it was, let's find it, 511.5. So as you can see, that's about 5 points higher than the average of people who applied. And also, as you can see, that number has gone up since the 2017-2018 cycle from 510.4, but it doesn't seem like there's too much variation. Once again, the GPAs are listed here for people who were accepted, and that is a 3.73, 3.82, and 3.66 for total non-science and science GPAs. Once again, you can look at those sections if you want more information. And I'm going to go to the next one so that we don't focus on numbers too much, but there's that if you need it. Okay. So how many experiences can you outline as the most meaningful experience, and how much should you write about those experiences? So basically on your application, you can write about the experiences you've been involved in your years as a pre-med student, and there will be a certain number of experiences you can highlight as your most meaningful experiences, and you'll get to write a little bit more about those. Anyone have a number?
Some people in the chat guess 3 and 5.
Okay, awesome. So 3 is correct. There will be 15 spots for you to place your experiences, and for each one you will be allotted 700 characters. And for the 3 most meaningful ones, it'll be 1,325 characters, so about double. So I'm just going to go down to that part of the slide right now because I kind of already mentioned it. But one thing that our officers from AMWA mentioned that was successful for them was writing about those experiences in a way that says how I will use this when I am a physician, when I am a physician, when I am a physician. So repeating that because they said that was important. And I do think it's important to obviously connect your experiences to why you want to be a physician, what it taught you, and how it's going to be beneficial for you in the future as a physician. So like we've talked about, connections are really important for letters of rec, and there's a lot of different ways you can make those connections, whether that is in classrooms, in research, or other experiences. So once again, this is off the AMC website that they want typically someone who has seen you interact with patients. A lot of schools will obviously want a professor, so a science faculty member. I know that some schools on the East Coast will want 2 of those, and some will only want 1. And other people who might be good for you to ask a letter of rec for would be a research advisor, a volunteer coordinator, anyone who you think could speak highly of you, you know, who medical schools would see as this person has, you know, like they would be a good person that could vouch for you because they have experience in their field, maybe not just like a random person. So your personal statement is 5,300 characters if you're applying for the standard MD programs, and there will be 2 additional essays for the MD PhD programs, and you can find that information online. I just didn't talk about it because I don't know a lot about the MD PhD programs. So the questions that they have listed for you to talk about in your personal statement include: why have you selected the field of medicine? What motivates you to learn more about medicine? What do you want medical schools to know about you that has not been disclosed in other parts of your application? And unique hardships or comments on significant fluctuations in your academics. And I wrote here advising appointments because I know that the pre-health advising at ASU will sit with you and go through your application for like an hour long. And they'll look through whatever you need them to. And they'll also, I think, I just had a pre-health appointment and they said that you can send your personal statement sometime at the end of this month. They're going to open it up and they will look at your personal statement twice, I'm pretty sure. And then the advising appointments for your actual application might have to come later when you are filling it out, when it's open through the AAMC. But I've heard that those are really good resources. I had a pleasant meeting with one of the advisors. She gave me good advice for applying in the MCAT, so it never hurts to see people. I know sometimes I've heard from other people, this has not been my personal experience, but that some of the advisors have been discouraging. If they are, I'm sorry that I'm telling you to go to them, but I had a positive experience with the advisor who I saw. So the AAMC recommends you take the MCAT the calendar year before you hope to enter medical school. So for example, I hope to enter medical school the fall of 2022, so I am working on taking my MCAT right now. And most companies will recommend 6 months of studying, and there are a lot of different resources, and I'm sure a lot of the officers will tell you what resources they have heard are good or have used themselves. A few of the ones that I know of are Kaplan, the Princeton Review, and Blueprint. I personally have been using the Kaplan books, and they have been helpful, and I've taken a few of the Blueprint practice exams. I know some of the practice exams score differently, or their difficulty might be different. I think it's good to just stay consistent so that you can see whether or not you're improving. And the gold mine of material will be the AMC material, which is the best indicator of your actual score. You can buy those online, and I know the MCAT preparing for it can be a quite pricey experience. And what I would recommend is, if that is an issue, I know that the Princeton Review offers ASU, and I have actually taken some full-length practice exams just by making an account through some of these third-party. They'll give you like one full-length or a diagnostic for free. So if that's something you want to do for your third-party tests, that might be good too.
Really quick, for the Princeton one at ASU, they give you all of the books for free, and they give you 10 practice exams for free, as long as you take the MCAT within a year of registering for the exam. So you're literally getting like $500 worth of books through ASU. So definitely check that out as a resource.
Yeah, so that is something that I've heard a lot of people like. And honestly, like for the books, I feel like Kaplan and Princeton Review and like content books can't really go wrong with anything. So obviously, if you're going to do something that would be better financially, that is a good resource. So Ramya, I believe you made this slide.
Sorry.
Oh,
That
just
is me.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I was responding in the web chat, and that's what I was.
Oh, I
meant
can't
to
see
correct.
that.
It's okay. But to answer the question in the web chat, somebody asked, Juliet asked, I was planning on taking the MCAT this winter, graduating in spring, and taking a gap year before med school. So hopefully starting in fall 2023. Is that too long of a wait between applying and testing, or how long after will they accept it? So I believe they take MCATs like up to like 3 or 4 years. After you take them, that's when you can apply with them. And you can submit them as late as, I believe, October most of the time. But sometimes the dates are a little bit different for each med school, and you can look it up, and it's normally on their website. But you can submit your application first with your MCAT pending. That's really important. And if you're going to take it like this within a year, I haven't heard that they expire within just 1 year.
Yeah, that's what I heard like last year, because one of the guy that we was talking about it, he said his sister is doing that, and then like the MCAT score, I don't know if it's right, but they say because she's the one that experiencing it. Oh, it based depend on the school.
Wow. Okay.
That's what I
Okay.
don't know. That's what I have heard, and then she's in it. She's in it, so I kind of believe that. I don't
Wow.
know.
Okay. Well, then I would suggest you guys having more.
Yeah,
looking
I
that
would
up
say
more.
you look more up into the MCAT website just to make
Mhm.
sure the school itself, because sometimes the school is like different too, depend on the application and the requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
want to say, I know someone just commented in the chat, like it's 3. But I think it really depends on the school too. Like they have like
Yeah.
their own preferences, so they might take like 3 years out. They might take 4. I think like obviously like they might prefer it to be like sooner, but it really depends on the school. So.
Yeah.
But you guys do have a few months after you apply normally, at least up until like October or November, around that time, to submit your application score, which means that typically the latest you'll want to take your MCAT is by September or October of that year that you're gonna, that same year that you're applying, because it's gonna take like a month typically for your MCAT scores to come back. And that's just like something to keep in mind. But to go into some more information, so the way that it's scored is unfortunately, well, fortunately, it is on a percentile, I guess. So it's not like necessarily like you could be like, oh, that was so hard, I got all of these questions wrong. But maybe it was just a really hard exam. You really don't know until you get your score. So just, hopefully it's good to be as competitive and as prepared as you can be, but that's just something to keep in mind, as you take these exams. The average score, the 50th percentile, is at 500. Lowest score is 472 to 528. And these are the 4 sections that are on the exam. I believe this was the order I took them in. So this should be their order. Don't argue with me if it's not, but I don't know. Chemical and physical foundations of biological systems, that's the first one. And that just tests your basic like biochem knowledge, biology, general chem, and organic chem, as well as physics. So all of your physics questions are going to be in this section. And the next one is the critical analysis and reasoning skills. That's CARS. That's pretty much basically just like if you've ever taken a reading exam on a test beforehand, on a standardized exam beforehand, it's a lot similar. It's for like comprehension. And it comes in it comes from like a variety of different humanities and social science disciplines as well. So that's kind of cool. It's always good to like always found those passages really interesting when I was taking the exam. You know, this is my favorite section. So I would say if there's one section that you can like do really, really, really well on, and read a bunch of like practice passages, STEM typically, a lot of people that take the MCAT do not necessarily do as well in this section. So this is one of those things where like without setting up a bunch on this prior like knowledge that you've learned in your STEM classes is one of those things that like you can excel in if you feel like you're good at reading. But biological and biochemical foundations of living systems is the next one, and that tests more biology, OChem, inorganic, and biochem. That's pretty much, so it's arguably not different from the description of the first one, and I see that now, but I think that's more of like real macrobiology instead of more of like the physical and chemical biology that the first section tests. So there's sometimes like some anatomy on that. So helping like learning some anatomy or reviewing that can be helpful as well. And then the last one is like the psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior, which tests introductory psychology, sociology, and biology again. And if you've ever taken like an intro to psych course, it's really, really helpful for this. Or if you've taken psychology in high school or any of that, that's going to be super helpful. But there's a lot of really specific concepts that they make you remember on that part of the exam too. If you guys have ever like remember like operative conditioning or like the different types of conditioning, basically, like that's really important. Just make sure you know a lot of those concept words. And yeah, how long the sci section equals bio section.
Yeah, isn't it? Because that's what I look at the percentage. Like the questionnaire is like similar to biology. I think it's approximately like, I don't remember exactly, but I remember the percentage. And that's when I got really surprised because psychology and biology was actually similar. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's like, and it's different for every exam, you know, and you'll see that the more you take practice exams, but the one I had a lot of like sociology on it too. So it really depends. That's the thing about the MCAT. That's why it's so hard. It's because you could literally be, tested on anything. So don't go into it saying like, oh, I studied biology, like that type of psychology really well, so I'm going to do really well. You really want to get like as wide of a scope of knowledge as you can. But that's just been my experience. And I will be taking it again. So I understand. But when I took it, it was only 6 hours long. So because of COVID. So if you can manage to take it during COVID while they're doing that, it's a lot more helpful. It is a shorter exam, however. So you can also argue that it's harder to like do well because there's less questions, you know. But mentally, as far as if you're like, oh, well, I really want to do it so that I don't have to sit down for 7.5 hours because that's like your alternative, then I would say do it now. But 7.5 hours is the length of the regular exam. And you get 3 breaks. You get 2 optional 10-minute breaks and 1 optional 30-minute break. And I really recommend taking those. You know, they give you a locker and you can bring in as much snacks and as much like liquids as you want in there. And you'll only be able to access them as well as your phone, like on these breaks, and make sure you use the restroom and stuff. But that's it. Do you guys have any like questions about the formalities of taking the MCAT exam or like what's going to be on it? Okay. If not, that's good. And Julia?
Yeah, I pretty much have like the same experience as you for taking the MCAT. People are in the room. Okay.
Sorry.
So because I took mine during COVID, wild times. Well, I think okay. Yeah, so I want to say, and they spaced us out, so there weren't a bunch of people sitting next to each other, but I want to say there were probably like 6 other people in the room with me. It wasn't like a full testing center, but this was also when they had like 3 testing periods in one day. So they're typically more, I want to say there was enough for like 15 people in the room. And then for where they're normally held, there are a bunch of different testing centers. When you go to sign up for the MCAT, it'll like ask you where you want to like take it. There's one actually like right by ASU, and then there's one in like Peoria, Glendale, downtown area. I don't know. But yeah, the practice tests are really important. They're all different. So okay, yeah. I'm also taking my MCAT again. Because it's not an easy thing. So I would just say like start studying and like reviewing just like early on. Do what works for you. So like some people really like flashcards, some people really just like pound out on like the practice passages. Also, I'm pretty sure, just to give you kind of like more of like an insight of it, it's like 10 passages per section and then what they call like freestanding questions. So yes.
If
Yeah.
I could add one more thing, Julia. So
Oh, you muted yourself. Oh.
someone just asked in the question, like, oh yeah, someone said in the comments, currently there are 3 test centers and they're all booked in AZ for the next few weeks. That's like another thing, is scheduling your MCAT. You really want to schedule it at least like 4 or 5 months before when you want to take it. Just because when I took it, I ended up really scheduling it only like 2 months out, and there's hardly any spots. They get taken up so quickly, and it is so hard to like get in. They'll send you an email if a spot that you want opens up, but it is so hard to like switch that date after that. And if you do sign up for one and it passes a certain amount of time before your test, then they might have to like, they may make you pay a lot of money too, like $100 or something, to like just change it, just to change your date. So just be conscious of that and really plan out exactly like what time you want to take it.
Yeah, they have like gold, silver, and bronze zones. So like gold, silver is when like I think it's like less expensive to change it. The silver zone, I think it like increases, but like you still have the chance to take it. And bronze zone, like you can't change your date. You just have to like either cancel it or switch it. When I was taking mine, I signed up, and mine was actually the first one to get canceled because of COVID. Back in March. And then, but I had like pushed mine back till like June. But then because of COVID, it was just kind of like a wonky time. So I didn't end up taking mine until like September. So hopefully, and right now it's kind of like a different process. They like open it up at like different months. Hopefully it'll go back to normal soon, but they've been like opening it up for like sign up in like certain months. And then they won't, like what it used to be is that they would just list out all the dates of that year. Or like the next 6 months. So it might be a little different now, but.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that right now. The way that they have it is you register, it's like a couple months in advance it'll open, and then you can register. Like I registered, I think 2.5 or 3 weeks ago, and the dates were open for April, May, and I think maybe June. But that was one thing. I went on the portal right when it opened, and then it put me in a waiting room, and I was in the waiting room for an hour, and then all the dates that I was planning on taking it were already full unless I wanted to go to like Vegas. So that was something that was a little bit discouraging because I really had to kind of stray away from my plan. It was like, do I want to take it 2 weeks earlier than I planned or 3 weeks later than I planned? I ended up picking to take it later. And like I went and talked to an academic advisor about this and how, okay, so now I'm taking it in mid-May, meaning I'm probably going to be applying to medical school without my score. And like that, you just have to really plan out how you want it to work for you. If I didn't want this problem to occur, maybe I should have considered taking it in March or February or something. So that's just something you have to be considerate of when you're trying to plan your exam, because I really did everything right. I went on it right when it opened, and I didn't get the time that I wanted. So sometimes it just doesn't work out in your favor, or you can drive to Vegas. I have friends who are doing that too. But I think the testing centers that were available when I signed up in Arizona, there was one in Tempe, like you guys mentioned. There's one in Chandler, and then there was one in Tucson, I'm pretty sure. And another thing is I wanted to take it in the morning, but I got stuck with an afternoon time. So that's another thing you have to be considerate of. And that might impact your studying. So like now when I study, I kind of think I want to start studying later in the day because I'm actually going to be taking my exam later in the day. So there's a lot of things to be considerate of, but regardless of that, like it is a hard process and like it can be really discouraging at times, but like you just kind of got to keep going and do it at a pace that works for you. I think the last thing we're going to talk about today is master's programs.
Okay, yeah. So option for master's program, you can either do like the regular one where it's like 2 years, or you can do the 4+1 where it's kind of like tacked on to the end of your undergrad. And I didn't apply for it until I started this last year, my senior year. But it's better to sign up when you're a junior. That way you kind of have time to do your master's classes during, like you can add a few during your senior year. That way you can get it all done in 1 year. And then, sorry, I typed some of this out really fast. But it's supposed to be like talk to your advisors. They have undergraduate advisors and graduate advisors. I kind of go off of both. And then also, so like I'm getting my master's in biology. Now that I'm in it, I don't necessarily think that like that would have been like my only like route to take. Like there are a bunch of other things. You don't have to necessarily stick to your major. It really depends on kind of like the program that you want to go to. So like you could get a master's in business if you wanted to, and like take some other classes on the side to kind of like set yourself up for that. There's just like a lot of different routes you can take. So I like kind of regret doing a master's in biology, but I'm committed, so it's fine. And then also like lining up a master's thesis advisor, that's something that like you want to kind of have a connection with, because if you're doing it in biology, you have to do like a research project. And I kind of just like met up with Dr. Compton, who was our old like professor of our club. And I like after one of her meetings, I just like grabbed coffee with her, and she had a research project that she needed help on, and I was like, yeah, I'm down to do it. And so it's like separate from my other lab that I'm in, but it was just kind of like a great opportunity. And then after we worked on that, I was like, hey, can I make this my master's thesis? And she was like, yeah, sure. So it doesn't have to be like super difficult. You can just like do what you want. So yeah.
All right, so I'm not doing any master currently because I decided to take a gap year, and I still like healthcare, but I don't know if I'm gonna do like med school or not yet. It just really depends on the future. If I really wanted to, I make it happen. But I did attend a master workshop at Juliana mentioned because I was planning to do it at her too, but then I realized that like there's so much more after medical school because I took a course with Professor Carolyn Compton too. It's called Bio 394 and it's 2 credit. And it's like a course that like every single lecture, the different doctor and different professor working in the healthcare that come and talk about their life and their how to get into med school, how they live after med school. Because of that course, I realized there's so much more. And I suggest you guys to do it. And it's only happened in the spring. So I suggest you guys to look for spring 2022, take it with Carolyn Compton, and you will realize and you'll get a lot out of it. Because you actually get connection by that lecture too, and you actually be able to get impression from them as well. So I suggest you guys to keep that in mind. And the reason why I'm doing this too, because I attend the master program and I was planning to do it, but then I realized I don't. So the biggest thing I would mention is that if you want to do master 4+1, is you planning ahead as early as you can, especially your freshman year, do it as early as possible and attain like master program workshop, because they're gonna give you a lecture. They're gonna send you a lecture, not a lecture. They're gonna send you a presentation. That's all the information in there, and they're gonna assist you from there. So that's the information I got from the presentation. So, and the main thing that I realized, a lot of people like to do this because they save time and they save a lot of money, because you do it within your undergrad year, which is within 4 years, even though they call for 4+1, but you save a lot of time, because some people, they got like scholarship, like, like the New American Scholarship. So if you do the master, they cover that for you. So you're basically like financial free after you graduate as an undergrad with a master. So that's why a lot of people are doing that. So if you want to go that route, you want to save your money in finance later in the future, then I guess you should check out this program. But if you kind of want to weigh, you kind of want to discover other thing in your life, then just go with it, because people have different paths and people have different interests. So just take your time. But as long as like you know what you're doing and you're passionate about it, you're gonna make it happen. So that's my advice. So don't compare yourself. That's the biggest thing that like I would get reminding myself. And it's kind of like easy to fall in that path, but if you keep reminding yourself, like at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, are you sure you're gonna be happy? Like imagine yourself the next 10 years. Because I talk to a lot of people too, and then I know like they say that like, okay, I get into this, but then I realize that like I don't like this because I compare myself to a lot of people, and I don't suggest you guys to do that. So kind of questioning yourself, what are you really passionate about, and imagine yourself in the next 10 years. But there's opportunity, and then change it like this. So take it. I don't know if there's gonna be a next slide. I don't remember.
I didn't write this one, but
I did that one. So that's just another question to like keep in mind if you want to do like a master, especially like 4+1 program. I say family issue is just like something happened within your family, and then you kind of just want to decide to take a master. Just that people I talk to, and then it just kind of like they just want to go with it. And a financial issue is the one that I was mentioning earlier. And GPA issue is, I know there's a case where she really, I don't know, she kind of take like a semester for study abroad. So she take another extra semester, and then her GPA is kind of like falling iffy. So she decided to take a master's just to kind of like push up her background. And though GPA gonna help her, like the master program gonna help her get into medical school. So that's another round if you want to go to that round too. So it's just really different in life, and some people just don't know what they want to do. So they just kind of want to go with a master, because the more knowledge you know, the more thing you can do. So
Awesome. So I know it's 8 o'clock, so if you need to go, feel free to go. I don't know about the other officers, but I'll stay on for a little bit if anyone has any specific questions. But that's everything that I had to share. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you for the officers who helped me today.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go study immunology.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
That's nasty, Julia. I'm sorry. What
Yeah.
immunology
Which
class
professor is that?
Yeah.
Professor Chang.
Oh,
Mm.
What was the last exam for you? I literally failed it.
I failed so hard. Okay. I had a panic attack in the middle of it because I couldn't get into the test. I emailed her. She won't do anything about it. So now I'm probably I have an advising appointment tomorrow, and then I might go to Dean of Students. And then like student rights and responsibilities after that. So it was wild. Because I couldn't get into the test, and then I was like 10 minutes late, and it was like a whole thing. Did you have because you said you had the problem?
Yeah, everyone did. She messed up.
Except not everyone had it. One of my friends had like zero problem getting into the test.
The first time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like I like talked to one and she was like, I did not have that problem like whatsoever. And so when I was emailing Professor Chang, I was like, hey, like, not everyone had this problem. And she was like, well, yeah, because there was like a 15-minute delay. So it affected different people at different times. And I was like, okay, so then again, like, that's not fair. We didn't all get to start the test at the same time. So it was wild.
Was this on lockdown browser, Julia?
Yes.
ASU has been having so many problems with lockdown browser. They've been sending emails to their professors and to the students because of how many issues they've been having. I haven't been able to get into any of my Spanish exams for like the past 2 modules, and every time I take it, I furiously send emails to my professor because they never let me in, and then I won't be able to take the exam for another week after it, just until whenever they randomly allow me to take it. And that's me trying it on 2 different computers and re-downloading the software a bunch of times. So I don't know what they want us to do to fix it, but that's not
I got so upset because I was like, okay, our professors expect us to show up already and prepared for these tests, and then they don't, because our whole problem was with our test, she had the wrong setting on it. So I was like, okay, if you expect me to show up prepared, and I was ready for that test, I studied so hard and I knew so much, and I went to go click on it and I was like, I can't get into it. And so I was furiously taking a screenshot of my computer and sending it to them, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I finally got into it, and then I was like, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what time it is because there's not a clock in lockdown browser. It only just counts down the time. And then I got a warning saying that it was going to be considered late if I didn't submit it in 30 minutes, but I still had 40 minutes left on my countdown. So I was like, I don't know what's going on, because I couldn't get the email saying we got our time extended because I was in the lockdown browser. So yeah.
That sounds so stressful. I'm sorry.
She's
The
also
joys of online learning.
so it's literally her fault and she's not letting you.
No, and that was the thing. I was just it wasn't a me thing. This was a you thing. And she was just everyone experienced it though. And I was like, yeah, but not in the same way. So yeah, but I also read that her class gets heavily curved. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I also kind of need to do better. So
that's a whole exam, and she shouldn't she should let you retake it at least.
Yeah, because wasn't the average a 40 something?
It was literally a 43.
Yeah.
Sounds
what?
Sounds about right.
Oh, is that the same thing with cell biology? That's what I have heard.
It's
cell bio.
Yeah.
Cell bio was okay.
Yeah,
Really?
I took it in the downtown campus, and it was actually really easy. It was surprisingly easy. I don't know.
Wow, because I heard the Tempe one was bad.
Yeah.
Robertson.
I'm taking it right now and it's really easy, but that might partly be because I already took biochemistry and I feel like you're supposed to take cell bio first. But I don't know. I thought it was also really similar to genetics, at least everything we've done so far.
That's a good thing. Maybe because it's COVID, so it's easy.
I think it's easier because of COVID right now for sure.
Yeah.
Because my tests are more open book.
Yeah. Yeah, all the biology department this semester is open book. Oh, I'm so jealous. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, mine is not.
Oh no, that's sad.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Class tomorrow. So.
Best of luck, you guys. You
Yes,
can do
I'm gonna
it.
go
You guys.
Julia.
Have a good
I
night.
missed you guys.
We miss you too, Warren.
Too.